The first thing I remember is the smell. Not the sweet scent of my mother's baking or the clean smell of laundry drying in the sun. No, this was different. It was the acrid mix of burnt rubber, cheap whiskey, and rain-soaked leather. It was the smell of fear. They broke my toy, a little wooden car my father had carved for me. Its wheels spun uselessly on the splintered floor. Then they hit my mother. The sound was a dull thud, a sound that has echoed in the chambers of my memory ever since. I was just a boy, small and hidden behind a curtain, my world shrinking to the size of a single, terrified breath. That night, the roar of engines was the only lullaby I had. They were a biker gang, a pack of wolves on iron steeds. Their jackets were the color of midnight, emblazoned with a flaming eagle, its wings spread wide as if to consume the world. They were the kings of the road, and our small town was just another stop on their map of chaos. My father wasn't there. He was a ghost, a whisper in the wind, gone long before the storm arrived. Years went by. The town tried to forget, scrubbing the memory of the kings from its streets like a stubborn stain. My mother never spoke of that night. Her silence was a wall I couldn't climb. But I remembered. The image of that flaming eagle was burned into my mind. I started digging, driven by a need I couldn't name. It was more than revenge. It was a quest for an answer, for a missing piece of my own soul. My search led me to the edge of town, to the old abandoned textile factory. A place of rust and shadows, where the wind whistled through broken panes of glass like a mournful song. The townsfolk called it a cursed place. They said it held the town's secrets that were better left buried. It was there, etched into a corroded steel door, that I saw it again, the flaming eagle. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't just a random mark. It was a signpost. Inside, the air was thick with the dust of forgotten years. Moonlight streamed through the decaying roof, illuminating a scene frozen in time. Old machinery loomed like sleeping giants, and in the center of the vast floor, surrounded by rusted chains and debris, was a cleared space. It looked like a meeting place. Faded photographs were scattered on a grimy table. Men in leather jackets, smiling, arms around each other, brothers. And then I saw him, my father. He was younger, his smile wide and unburdened, a flaming eagle stitched proudly on the back of his own jacket. He wasn't a victim of the kings, he was one of them, the world tilted on its axis. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. The story my mother had woven, a fragile tapestry of a good man who disappeared, unraveled before my eyes. The fear I had felt as a child was now twisted with a confusing cocktail of betrayal and a strange, aching understanding. My father wasn't a simple man. He was a king, a part of a brotherhood bound by gasoline and fire. I found an old, locked footlocker tucked away in a dark corner. I broke the rusted lock. Inside, nestled amongst worn leather gloves and a tarnished harmonica, was a letter addressed to me. The paper was yellowed with age, my father's handwriting a familiar, yet distant, script. He wrote about the brotherhood, the freedom of the open road, the escape from a life that was closing in on him. He wrote about the eagle, not as a symbol of destruction, but of rebirth, of rising from the ashes. But he also wrote about the darkness that came with it, the compromises, the debts that had to be paid. He had tried to leave, to come back to us, to my mother and the boy with the wooden car. But you don't just walk away from the kings. That night, they weren't there to terrorize. They were there to collect, to take back what they believed was theirs. My father had stood against them to protect us, and in doing so, he had sealed his fate. They hadn't just broken my toy and hit my mother. They had come for him. The fight hadn't happened in our living room. It had happened here, in this factory, his last stand. He wasn't a hero in the traditional sense. He was a flawed man who made a choice. He chose us. The roar of engines I heard that night wasn't the sound of them leaving in triumph. It was the sound of them retreating, leaving a ghost behind. I stood there, in the silence of the factory, the letter trembling in my hand. The anger I had carried for so long melted away, replaced by a profound, hollow sadness. A sadness for the father I never knew, and for the boy who hid behind a curtain, misunderstanding the sacrifice being made for him. I walked out of the factory as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air was cold, clean. In the distance, I heard it. A low, familiar rumble. At first, I thought it was a memory, an echo from the past. But it grew louder, closer. A single motorcycle, its engine a steady, rhythmic beat. It stopped at the end of the long gravel road. The rider was a silhouette against the dawn. An old man with gray hair, his leather jacket faded and worn. On the back, almost invisible with age, was the faint outline of a flaming eagle. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just sat there watching me. It wasn't a threat. It was a vigil, a silent acknowledgement. He was the last one, a keeper of the story. I finally understood. The roar of the engines never truly stopped. It's a legacy, passed down, a story of brotherhood, sacrifice, and a love that rides on the wind forever. My father's engine fell silent, but the echo remains. What would you do if you discovered a secret that changed everything you believed about your family? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories that dig deep into the shadows of the past, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.